So good afternoon. Should it be good afternoon or good morning? Good morning, right? Still in the morning time in Russia. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to join the Chinese Dialects Festival organized by the Association for the Advancement of Sinology in Russia. And in particular, I would like to thank Alina for inviting me again to join this big event. And I hope you all will enjoy the presentations, talks, and seminars in this 1 week event, and I would say you will learn a lot from different scholars on different perspectives about the Chinese dialects. As Alina mentioned, what I'm going to share with you is a mobile app that I recently developed, which is called CanPro, standing for Cantonese pronunciation. It is actually a very simple app for learners to practice Cantonese pronunciation through common daily expressions. Now, I'm going to give you some background or the rationales about the design of this app, and also how you can play or how you can use this mobile app. I think many of you have heard about the complexity or the characteristics of the Cantonese dialect. In the previous hour, you probably have heard about one of the very famous features of Cantonese, that is sentence final particles or utterance particles, as illustrated by Professor Tang Si Wing. And in addition to that, there are a lot of interesting issues in Cantonese, like the tonal system with the yin and yang registers, with ping shang qu ru, a very, we have a lot of tones. And also another famous feature is the verbal suffixes attaching to the main verbs in sentences. So if you think that after learning Putonghua or Standard Chinese, you can master Cantonese, I'm afraid you underestimate the power of Cantonese or the features of Cantonese. In fact, it's not that simple. It's not just one-to-one translation, and there are a lot of features that you need to master in order to be proficient in Cantonese. But I'm not going to give you the details of all these features. Instead, I want to share with you some of the studies or some of the views given by learners of Cantonese when they pick up Cantonese. Some years ago, back to 2016, 5 years ago, a group of scholars led by Professor David Lee conducted a survey with some Cantonese learners in Hong Kong. And they asked them the challenges or their views or concerns about Cantonese learning. And here I gave a quote from their interview results. This learner said that teaching methods were neither communicative nor interesting enough to engage CAL learners in learning useful expressions they need in everyday life. The CAL here stands for Cantonese as an additional language. All right, so no matter they are from mainland China or from other parts of the globe, they learn Cantonese as an additional language. So you can see from these comments given by the learners, there is a gap between what they learn or what they get from the teaching materials, learning materials, textbooks, or whatever, from what they actually need in daily life. So there's a gap there. And there is another survey done by another scholar called Cedric Lee recently, last year, 2020. It's also about the learning needs of Cantonese as a second language in Hong Kong tertiary education. He did a survey with all the learners. He sent out a survey to learners of Cantonese in Hong Kong's universities, and asked about their views, and also asked them to prioritize the skills or the learning strategies they adopt to learn Cantonese. And this slide shows that these learners want to pick up Cantonese mainly for social purposes. It's not for academics. They are not doing Cantonese linguistics, but they want to be more involved in university life, to have more entertainment opportunities, to be able to understand the dialogues in the movies, or to understand the meaning of the lyrics in pop songs, and also to enhance their understanding of the culture. So this is very obvious, there's always a relationship between language and culture. Now, in terms of the skills they want to polish, they rank listening and speaking skills the most important ones, no matter they are Chinese speakers, Chinese dialect speakers, or international language speakers. So this is something they want to focus on, listening and speaking. And then we have culture, vocabulary, grammar next. Now, the next item that Cedric Lee asked about is the learning strategies. So how do they pick up Cantonese? Now, of course, the most direct way is to enroll in a language class. But besides that, out of class, what are other possible strategies the learners use, including mass media, interact with native speakers, and also self-learn online learning materials, as well as mobile phones and apps. So in other words, these are also important medium for the learners to acquire Cantonese. So in sum, based on the two surveys done by scholars, we can tell that Cantonese learners, generally speaking, prefer learning the language for social purposes. And also they expect that the learning items to be more related to their daily life. And speaking and listening skills are preferred. And also they also use self-learning strategies in addition to enrolling in a class. Now, the question is, we know the needs and also the concerns, worries, or challenges faced by these learners. How can we help them? How can we help them? Now, before I move on, I have to stress that I'm not a teacher or an instructor of Cantonese. I'm mainly a linguist. So I don't have any experience. I don't have any teaching strategies about how to design a full course of Cantonese. Instead, what I'm interested in doing or to develop is whether we can make use of some linguistic knowledge to help the learners. So that's why you will see that the app I developed is not a full package. It's not to learn pronunciation. I said it's for pronunciation practice. So in other words, my app, if you want to use my app, I have an assumption. That is, you already have some knowledge about Cantonese pronunciations. So we don't start from consonant, vowels, and tones, that kind of things. I assume you already have learned these in class or from someone, and then you come to my app and then use it to consolidate your knowledge. So this is something I want to mention before I move on. Now, we all know that there are a lot of materials available for learning Cantonese, such as the traditional printed textbooks, as well as some dictionaries, phrase books, vocabulary lists, etc., etc. But recently, we also see a lot of YouTube clips compiled and also available online for free. So learners actually can learn Cantonese easily, right? Without paying a penny as well. But at the same time, we also have to reflect on the strategies or the approach that we adopt in Cantonese learning and teaching, CLT in short. Here, I put down the integration of DDL and MALL. Now, DDL here stands for data-driven learning. So I think this kind of approach addresses the concern raised by one of the learners in David Lee's group's survey. That is, they found that the items they acquire or they learn may not match what they exactly need in daily life. So in other words, whether we can count on some corpus data or databases to allow us to know which kind of structure, which kind of vocabulary items or expressions that are used more frequently in by Cantonese speakers. If we can have this kind of thing, we can prioritize the learning items or the sentence structures as well. And the other approach that we may need to pay attention to nowadays is MALL more, which is mobile assisted language learning. I think 20-some years ago, we also have a similar phrase, which is CALL, C-A-L-L, computer assisted language learning. But nowadays, of course, we count on mobile phones rather than the desktop computers, iPad, gadgets, etc., etc. So the idea is to support with these mobile apps. We want to support our learners' learning needs with the increased use of mobile technologies. I think we all know mobile phones are very easy to carry, and also you can play or you can use it anywhere on the bus during the time when you're waiting for your dining table, etc., etc. So we can make good use of this to help the learners. But imagine if you go to watch a YouTube clip of 3 hours of Cantonese package, I think it will take a lot of time and you may get bored. So we have to think about whether we can shorten the learning time and also to make it more direct, the learning items. So when we want to adopt or to integrate the MALL and DDL in Cantonese language and teaching, we also see that this kind of approach has been adopted in many languages, such as English, Chinese, and Japanese. I think you can find a lot of apps, mobile apps, of learning these languages. But according to one of the graduates in my university, some years ago, he did his final year project with a mobile app. He found that not much has been discussed on Cantonese. Now, maybe some of you learners of Cantonese, you can share or you can evaluate whether this comment by our student is correct or not. Although we recognize that there are numerous apps on Cantonese available on the internet, but many of them, as I said, they are full package, full courses, all right? And most of them, and many of them are one-way approach, the one-way approach in the sense that usually you listen to the app, to the phrases, and then you have the characters, romanization, and then you have the pronunciation, the recorded version for you to listen, but that's it. So it's one way, just like the traditional teaching. All right, so we have all these on the internet or on mobile phones. But instead of developing a full Cantonese course, we want to make sure that the learning package can be in the form of like tutorial exercise, something like that, to consolidate learners' acquired knowledge. All right, so it's two-way. It's not just listen, learn, memorize, but also to use or to ensure that they really understand the language. So in this regard, I began to think about, because Alina mentioned that some years ago, I developed a corpus of mid-20th century Hong Kong Cantonese, and we have a lot of data, close to 1 million character tokens, and we were thinking how we can make good use of it. It's not just a database for people to search for the data, but we also want to make use of the data inside to develop some learning materials, learning apps, something like that. So in this regard, we started to think about developing something for learners. So that's why we have the CanPro mobile app. As I said, CanPro stands for Cantonese pronunciation, but it can also mean that after using the app, you can pronounce Cantonese. All right, so can stand for Cantonese or can. All right, so the idea is very simple. It's a matching exercise where users pair the Chinese characters of a Cantonese expression with the corresponding Yuping romanization. So it's a matching exercise. And in this phase, the first phase of this app, we selected 100 expressions from the corpus I just mentioned. If you're interested, you can copy down the link and access our corpus for more information. Now, this is the login page, a very simple one. We need your login because we need to keep track, at least on your phone, local phone, about your progress. You don't have to complete the whole exercise in one go, so you can keep the track your process, and then you can know your progress. Now, I'm going to show you a short video of about 1 minute showing you how this app is used. So this is the interface of the app of the intermediate level with an example of an expression with 3 characters. So on the top, you can see the expression expressed in Chinese characters. Underneath is the simple translation of the expression. And users can click on the loudspeaker icon to listen how the expression is pronounced.
Hello.
Yeah, very good. The exercise is that for each of these Chinese characters on the left, he or she has to match the character with the romanization on the right. Oh, very nice. So if they are not sure about the pronunciation, they can listen to each of the character by clicking these musical note icon. So the first, so this is in sum, the app actually consists of some daily life expressions taken from the dialogues of some early movies. Well, you may wonder whether these expressions are outdated. Of course not, because we select those that are still actively used in modern Cantonese. And the whole idea is about Cantonese pronunciation, so they can listen to the sample sound, and then they also what they need to do is to do the matching exercise. Up matching with this NEI5 and this law is NGO5, because I think they may need this kind of exercise because to practice, to strengthen their pronunciation skills, because they may not have enough tutorial or exercise time in the class. And then at the same time, we are not just teaching them simple vocabulary. I think most of the apps just use simple vocabulary items. But here we try to include some funny expressions like 你唔好理我, okay, leave me alone or don't bother me. And then they match the character with the romanization in the expressions. Now, these are some of the expressions we got from the movie dialogue. Some of them are short one, like consisting of 2 characters only, including something like 埋單, have the check, 搞掂, done, 等陣, wait for a minute, wait a minute, 睇下, have a look. And we also have something like 喺邊度啊, where is it, 唔使唔該, don't mention it, 你放心啦, no worry, this kind of things. And also some 5 characters advanced level. So the whole idea of the CanPro is to make use of the corpus data we already have to sharpen learners' Cantonese pronunciation skills. As we can see from some of the surveys, they want to practice more with their speaking and listening skills, and also make use of some common expressions selected from a Cantonese corpus. So this is to address the DDL, data-driven approach. And then, of course, we hope that these expressions are useful, and I think we all use them in our daily life, so that we can help them to not just to practice the pronunciation, but also to better integrate into the Cantonese speaking community. Okay, and luckily, our app, was one of the items exhibited in the Geneva's Inventions Expo 2021, and we got the silver medal for this app as an invention item. All right, so that's all for my simple introduction and demonstration of the app. And as I told Alina before this presentation, I'm still finalizing the app. I'm still waiting for my developer, the programmer, to send me the final version of the app. Once it's available, I can ask Alina to circulate, to spread, to let you know about this, and then you can always give us feedback for further improvement. Okay, so that's all.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting, and we are waiting for your app to be launched as soon as possible. I want to ask you, do you have any plans that it will be, the first edition, there will be some expressions? Actually, how many expressions there will be?
Around 100 here.
100. Oh, great. Will you add more? For example, when I have learned all these 100 expressions, perhaps I'll go to level 2 and learn a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. We actually selected more than 100, and some of them consist of 7 or even 9 characters, something like that. But we didn't include them this time because we use the mobile phone as our interface, and it's hard to have 9 characters shown on the
Yeah.
mobile phone. We don't have enough space to accommodate all the 9 characters. But we are trying to see whether we can include more. Because to be frank, this is only a trial. We just got some money from the university to develop some apps for knowledge transfer or for developing some mobile apps. So I just applied for it, and then after that they said, well, why don't you go for the exhibition, the Expo, and see how it goes? And then we got the silver medal. So that's why we continue finalizing it. So you're right. Probably we can continue with more items or more expressions to be included in the second phase or third phase of the app.
Well, I wish you all luck, and I think it will have a golden medal next time when you will
Thank you. Thank you.
have a second version. And don't forget to send us this link. I'm sure, yeah, if people are writing questions, if they are, please do it a little bit quicker, because we're already finishing this presentation. Yes, we have one question. Andy, can you open the chat box? You're looking for people? No, it's Q&A chat. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I think this is a good question. We try to use the so-called standard pronunciation, so we will have N instead of L, because I believe in many Cantonese classes, the students, the learners will be taught with the so-called standard or the so-called 正音 correct pronunciation. So in this case, we try, because if you don't distinguish it, like the examples I gave, 你唔好理我, then 你 and 你, if you pronounce them as LEI, then the app has problem to recognize which one you match with L. So there are 2 LEI5, then one is you, the pronoun you, and the other is the verb. Then the system cannot distinguish which is which. So that's why we need to have this distinction to ensure that the user get it right. But I think that's only a technical issue. But I think we still follow the tradition, distinguishing the so-called correct pronunciation.
Well, it's actually a very interesting question, because in Guangdong, you have a different pronunciation. So when I will be using your app, I will be learning Hong Kong pronunciation, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
of course, we when we have the so-called 变调 tone change, we'll also include it. We won't for those 变调 cases. We will just use the actual common way we pronounce the words.
I see, because it will be very useful to speak different types of Cantonese.
Sure.
To be understandable in different parts of the world. We have a second question.
Yes. About anything about the romanization system. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand your question. Are you asking what romanization system are we using? Is it a question you want to ask? What kind of romanization system? We use the European.
I think the question is, this European, it's common for you, but for foreigners, it's not very common.
I see.
And there is a different romanization system. And when you first open the app about Cantonese, there is this romanization system. I just don't know how to read it. There are many.
I see.
different words, different words, but it's difficult to grasp.
I take it for granted that you think is already common enough. Yeah, I understand this. I just show you the content of the app without the so-called introduction. In fact, we have an introductory page telling people how to the rationale of the design of this app, and also how to play. And you're right, probably we need to include some information about the romanization system we use in this app, and probably we can include some links. We cannot have everything we are not going to show the the consonant chart or vowel chart or syllabary chart in this app, but probably we can include some links to bring the users to refer to the differences or to compare the Yuping system with other commonly known systems like Yale or even IPA. I think there are already some web pages showing the contrast to compare these romanization systems.
Thank you. We have Оксана Владимировна, вы будете задавать вопрос? Мы видим, что вы присоединились и выключили микрофон.
Нет, я не буду задавать вопрос. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте, тогда можно не присоединяться с помощью голоса и звука, и так все слышно. Andy, perhaps you know, it's not just a chart. A chart is very boring, actually. It's very difficult to read for foreigners, for those who are just starting to learn Cantonese and these simple everyday expressions. Perhaps you can help learners to learn this romanization system by learning very simple words. For example, one, I don't know how to say, for example, and you're not just learning this sound, you're learning a word. So step by step, word by word, but you will learning this system and some words, some very simple words, because it's really difficult when you're learning Mandarin. And this is 普通话, but when you're opening Yuping or yells and so on, what is it? Why they're different? It's confusing, actually, very confusing. And perhaps it's just a proposition. Perhaps you have a chart comparing these different.
I think the point is well taken. The comment is quite useful, but I have to mention that I think I mentioned that already, that it's an app for practice rather than for learning. So in other words, I assume the learners have already some knowledge about the pronunciation of Cantonese. So they just want to have more exercises, more drill practice. So I assume that you already. But of course, I can think of, for example, I can create another version like with the Yale's romanization system.
Yeah, just
maybe when you log in, you can choose whether you want to Yuping or Yale or even IPA. Yeah. I think I can consider whether we can embed this kind of several romanization systems for the mobile app.
That will be very good. We have a speaker in the afternoon. She will be Russian, who is working and living in Hong Kong, and she speaks Cantonese. And I think she will be speaking about these difficulties when you open different books, because you don't understand what books you should buy in Hong Kong, in Guangdong, in any other.
I think this is also another comment raised by some of the learners in the survey.
Yes, of course. And you have different systems, and you just don't understand which one is the right one. Because you have the concept that one language, one system. Yeah. For romanization system.
Although many symbols are common across the systems, the romanization system.
For you.
But still, there are some trivial ones that can create problems or confusion to learners, when they begin to pick up the language.
Yeah, it is. For me, when I started learning Cantonese, I spent some time to find some information to compare these two things, because I never thought there can be several systems at once and they can be used. Not just, there are some systems, but these are common systems, these are for researchers. But these are very well spread, and it's a little bit difficult and just confusing. Maybe one chart in future versions will be very great, because when you open, probably not everyone will use, but when you have this information and once you thinking about, what's the difference? Oh, here is something in this app more than just expressions. Maybe it will be useful for others, for foreigners as well.
Yeah, thank you for. So that's why I appreciate the comments from the learner's perspective. So I think this can be. I think we can enhance or include this, or consider how to include this kind of information in the mobile app.
So we are waiting for your app to be launched and to use it, to try it, and to tell you more what we like
Sure.
and what we want to have in future versions. And we have another question, a simple one.
Okay, one more question. When can learners aboard find? Well, when the app is ready, I think I can share the APK file with and also the with people. But I think I need to talk to my university because we have an official page in our university to host this kind of app for download, so that we don't have to pay ourselves to on Google Play. So I will let you know once it's ready. No worry. I think everyone can download it easily.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah.
We're just waiting. Just tell the developer that there are a few more people who are waiting for the app. Perhaps it will help him that his work is very appreciated.
Right.
Thank you very much, Andy. Please stay here. We have one more speaker today at 3 p.m. Moscow time. It will be 8 p.m. Hong Kong time. And we are waiting for you tomorrow and the day till the 16th of August. Every day, everybody are welcome. You can go to networking session for now, to Expo session. There are some very interesting proposals from our restaurants, China restaurants in Russia, unfortunately, Andy. But next time I will take you to the best ones because now we know about everything about them. And there is a replay section where you can listen and watch all lectures that you missed today. They are in a replay section for 24 hours. Thank you very much, Andy. And thank you. Thanks, everyone. Stay with the festival, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the questions and comments.
We'll have more once you have an app. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. See you.
See you.